It's about an acre or 2 lots, so the houses are really spread out. The roads aren't paved, they're all dirt and gravel. It's a mature neighborhood, so there's lots of trees and bushes, kind of isolated, not any street lights at all, so very dark.
Once you got back to the party, did you park your vehicle down the street a little bit?
I did. I parked on the side of the road, but because the lots are so big, it's pretty far away from the house. And so I had parked on the side, and it was pretty far to the front door.
Before you went back into the party, what were you doing?
I was looking in the mirror, putting makeup on, checking myself out, and then I just went to go reach for my purse, and that's when the door opened.
What happened when the door opened?
Somebody grabbed me from behind, covered my mouth, and put a knife to my head, and kept repeatedly saying, "Shut up. All I want is your car. Shut up. Shut up. I just want your car. Get out of the car."
When you say a knife was to your head, where are you talking about?
The back of my head back here. So he covered my mouth with one hand and put a knife to the back of my head.
Can you describe the tone of voice?
It was kind of a urgent, hushed voice. Shut up, shut up. Don't say anything. Shut up. I just want your car. Shut up.
Were you trying to resist at that point?
No, I didn't. Not at all.
What happened next?
He dragged me out of the car and pulled me across to a vacant house across the street, kind of more in the front of the yard. And at that point, he started to cover my nose and hold my mouth shut and started to grab my airway and started crushing it.
How were you pulled across the street? When you pulled out of the car?
Just the same way, from behind. He held me and then dragged me across the street so hard that one of my shoes came off as my feet were dangling, going across the street.
So once you were across the street, you say that he started to strangle you?
Yes, sir.
And was he in front of you at that point or still behind you?
It was behind me. I was almost sitting in his lap because we were leaning up against a hill. And so he had me from behind and I was kind of leaning back into him.
Was he still talking to you?
Yeah, he just kept saying, "Shut up." I can't remember anything else that he would say at that point.
As he was strangling you, what were you doing?
I had learned in kind of a self-defense class that you can't keep a grasp without your pinkies, and so I kept grabbing his pinkies off to try to get his hands off because I started to see stars and started to see that I was going to pass out if I didn't get his hands off my throat. So I started grabbing his pinkies, and at that point he told me to take my gloves off. And so when I couldn't get my gloves off fast enough, he pulled them off himself and he shoved them in my mouth.
Were you able to breathe with those gloves or things in your mouth?
I was. They weren't in my mouth very long. I kind of thought it was silly because they just fell right out.
What happened next?
At that point, he dragged me a little bit further in behind a lot of bushes and further into the house. And he tied me up with a zip tie and threw me on the ground face up.
Did he tie your hands with a zip tie?
He did. He tied my hands.
And were they tied in front of you or behind you?
I believe they were tied behind me.
So then you were thrown on the ground with your hands tied behind your back, and you were on your back, is that correct?
Yes.
What happened next?
He put the sweater over my forehead, and he just kind of left me there for a little while. He kept coming and going and coming and going for a few minutes at a time. I could hear noises, but I didn't know where I was or what was going on.
When he would come back and forth, was he saying anything to you?
He did. At one point he asked why I had an Arizona driver's license and why I only had $1 in my pocket, if I had more money in my pants pocket, what my keychain, because I had a nickname on my keychain, what that meant. And I remember again, just in that self-defense class, just keep talking to an attacker because it'll make a personal relationship with them. So just keep answering questions and stay calm.
Were you screaming at all? Did you consider running away?
I didn't consider running away. I don't know why. I think about that a lot, but I didn't really scream until he started taking my pants off.
At what point did that happen?
Pretty close after he had gone back and forth and back and forth. I could hear like a wrapper, and I think now is maybe a condom that he was putting on, but I didn't think about that at the time. And then he came over and he ripped my pants off and took my underwear off. And then he started to sexually assault me.
Do you remember some of the things he said before he sexually assaulted you?
He told me, get it wet for me. He licked my nipples, and he banged his penis against my vagina and inner thigh.
At some point, did he penetrate you with his penis?
Yes, he did.
Was this your first sexual experience?
Yes, it was.
How long did this go on? The sexual attack?
Not very long, maybe 10 minutes at most.
As this was happening to you, what were you doing?
I don't remember doing anything. Just thinking that, is this really what sex is? Because I never had anything to compare it to.
Were you scared?
Absolutely.
Can you describe your level of fear?
It's a level of fear I've never, it's just, it was more like an out-of-body experience. Like I didn't know, it's not like any other fear I've ever faced in my life. Just I can't, my body kept shaking so bad because I was so scared, but my mind was just so calm. But it's like I was looking at myself. It wasn't like I was actually in my body at that time.
And this whole time, were you able to get a look at him at all?
No, at one point during the sexual assault, my sweater started to come down over my face and I could tell he was wearing a hat. But besides that, he saw that my sweater started coming down and he wrapped the sweater back over my face.
At some point, did this stop?
Yes, it did.
Did he make a statement to you about not wanting to finish or something like that?
Yeah, he said, I don't want to finish this here. And then he got me back up and tried to put my pants on, but they were ripped. And so then he proceeded to drag me back to my car.
So at this point, are you basically nude from the neck down, the waist down?
Yeah, I can't remember what my bra was. I don't know if it was pulled down or pulled up, but my sweater was over my head and I didn't have anything from the waist down.
Where did he drag you?
He dragged me back to my car and he told me, get in, and I thought I was getting into a passenger seat and I was trying to get in. Eventually he just picked me up and threw me in the trunk of my car.
What type of car did you have?
A 1995 Dodge Neon.
Were you still bound with the zip ties at that point, or did that change?
At that point, when he put me in the trunk, he took the zip tie off and he bounded me with my spandex volleyball shorts around my wrist.
Today, do you still have marks on your wrist from those zip ties?
I do. I have a few scars on my wrist from being bound up.
Did he close the trunk?
He did, and he started to drive away.
How long did the driving last?
I want to say probably about 45 minutes.
After he'd been driving for about 10 minutes, did you hear some banging?
I did. It was before, like as we started driving off, he started banging on the car. I didn't know really what he was doing inside the car. And then after about 10 minutes, he pulled over and asked me how to turn the light off in the car.
So does he get out of the car, open the trunk, and ask you the question?
Yes.
After that, did he close the trunk?
He did, and then he continued driving again.
Was there another stop after that?
There was, he stopped. He didn't come and open the trunk for a while. He was gone for, I don't know how much time, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and in the background I could hear digging, and I was thinking that he was probably digging a hole for me, and so I got really scared at that point. He did eventually open the trunk, and he ended up washing my whole body off, my nipples and my vagina, with a water bottle. I could hear as he was squeezing the cracking of the plastic.
Was your shirt still over your head, your sweater still over your head, so you couldn't see?
Correct.
After he washed you, what happened next?
He shut the trunk again and drove again.
Did he stop again?
He did stop again, but he never opened the trunk of the car.
What do you remember happening next?
We stopped again, and then we started driving again, and then he stopped. He opened the trunk of my car, and he said, "Don't move for 10 minutes or I'll kill you."
At that point, was the trunk closed again, or was it left open?
It was left open.
So what did you do?
I could hear him start up a car and drive past the car, and then I waited until I couldn't hear the car anymore, and I got out of the trunk and realized I was a block away from where he had originally taken me, next to my friend's house.
And at that point, did you have any clothes or no?
I still didn't have any clothes on.
And at some point, did you become aware that he had moved to Montana?
I did.
How did you become aware of that?
I was at a restaurant in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I thought I saw him on the street with some guys, and I started having an anxiety attack because, I knew he was out, and I started crying, and my mom said, "What are you crying about?" I said, "I think I just saw Toby." And she said, "That's impossible, he lives in Montana now."
How did you feel when you found out about these charges here in Yellowstone County?
I was pretty devastated. Like I didn't do enough in Santa Fe to keep him behind bars so that this couldn't happen again.
Did you follow these cases?
I did.
Later this morning, judge will pronounce sentence. Is there anything you'd like to say to the court?
That I just
I'm so grateful that Montana will finally give me justice.